So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's march ahead, and it's time to invite our next speaker to understand the experience is your brand, understanding the purpose and the path for it. We have with us someone who, in fact, in his role and in his experience for over 23 years in sales and marketing with companies such as HUL, Wipro, Visa, SAP, and most recently with Infosys, has been spearheading some wonderful thoughts as well as some wonderful initiatives as well. And currently, in his role, he's leading a team of marketers across all the businesses and routes to the market as well. We have with us the head of marketing of Adobe. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us none other than Mr. Sunder Madakshira. So if we may please have a huge round of applause. Let's have the energy back in the air, and let's have some enthusiasm back in the end. Please help me welcome Sunder Madakshira. And a quick request to all of you, please take your seats. Thank you.
Thank you for those kind words. So it's a little lonely existence for me after that huge panel. A lot of marketing firepower. But just being around with the session since morning, I feel so proud of the role that I have at Adobe. Because clearly it gives us an opportunity to interact with brands, marketers, digital officers, and many, many personas from some of India's best brands. And every day is a great education in marketing for me to understand what their marketing charter and the digital charter is for so many companies. So with that, I thought I will probably try and summarize what I have learned in the last roughly 3 years that I've been with Adobe, interacting with different brands. And just to make it easier for us to remember what those 7 things are that really stand out as those lessons that we have learned from this. So I've made it easier. The theme of the conference is MadTech, so it's MADTECH. And what I'm going to be talking about is those 7 things that stand out as if I may say, a playbook that successful marketers have used. At the same time, we've also seen that when one of these aspects of marketing has not been touched effectively by people, it has sort of led to they actually reaching suboptimal results in what they want to achieve. So this is in some sense a guide to success that we've seen in the way they work, and also in some sense something that people have not done and have had to see limited or no success. So let me get started. I think the first thing is measurability. I think we've been talking since morning about it in varied sessions. But clearly, measurability is something that is absolutely paramount in the topic of marketing. So the latest edition of Harvard Business Review, if you've seen it, is actually arguing against getting obsessed with measurements and generally business metrics and losing the larger picture. So this session is, and this point is not to counter that, but actually in line with what is a larger observation that many of us have made. That have we got too obsessed with measuring marketing and forgotten marketing itself, right? Now, I'm not the one to be telling what the right answer or what the right, where one should be in that spectrum. But the point that we're making here is successful brands know how to measure, what to measure at which stage in their life cycle. And that one set of measures cannot be sort of prescribed and used by everyone. So every business, every brand has to decide on what metrics it's going to follow in its life cycle of evolution. And that's the lesson that we're talking about. But the fact is, the investments that we put into marketing will be subject to a tighter scrutiny than ever before. That's a given. I think it's always been the case, and that's going to only get heightened as we go along. So the first aspect of successful marketing is measurability in its right measure and it's in its right context. The second one is, of course, very importantly, is the authenticity of the brand. And why are we talking about it? This is something that we all know, but why are we talking about it in this context? It's got something to do with the previous topic about the metric itself. Now, if it's been seen repeatedly, and I think all of us see it in the market all the time, that in pursuit of metrics, in pursuit of certain aspects that we want to amplify at that point in time, the larger brand story gets lost, and the larger authenticity of the brand gets questioned. The news channels are, an extreme epitome of that, and that's what we're seeing and we experience every day, on our televisions and all other channels. So the authenticity of the brand, therefore, comes under immense pressure when you are trying to create content, when you're trying to up certain aspects of your brand and get certain metrics going at the cost of a larger brand message that you want to give. So authenticity is something that the moment that is lost, the connect with the audience is lost, because that people begin to distrust whatever communication you're giving. And in a highly distracted world, it's not a great place to be if the audience is questioning the authenticity of whatever you're saying. My firm belief has been that I think the core function of a marketer is how he's able to differentiate his brand. And I think that was true 100 years back, that is true now, and it will be true 100 years from now, where I think the clutter is so high in every aspect of marketing. Now, how does a marketer actually work to ensure that the brand that he's representing is something that is distinct and distinguished and stay ahead of the competition? And as we've seen in every market, in every category, what we call as the winner takes all, it's all about how distinct and distinguished your brand is with respect to your competition set that you're talking about. So we've done with MAD, which is M-A-D. Now it's tech, and it's technology driven. So it's clear, I think it's very, very clear to all of us. We've seen so many stories that we've heard since morning, where technology has been at the center of whatever the brand is doing. And I was reading the Interbrand report for the third time last night, and I still found that one of the biggest observations has been that it's not the technology brands which are always the most valuable, but brands which have used technology as the backbone of how they build the whole brand. And that is becoming a key about how you're looking at technology, what's the optimal level of technology that you need to use. Again, it's got something to do with the first point that we talked about, which is how will you deploy technology? How will you use that to understand your consumers? How will you use technology to aggregate all the insights that you're getting? How will you use technology to deploy your customer experience plans and strategies that you have? I think technology is bound to increase in our lives, and the brands which are technology driven are clearly emerging as winners. Now, even in very traditional brands, if I just go back a moment, even in very traditional types of brands, we see that technology is being used. They're amongst the forerunners in use of technology. So you look at the way, for example, brands like L'Oreal, Coke, Nike have used technology. It shows that there are some people who are ahead of the pack because they have been using technology in very, very non-traditional situations. The next point is about entrepreneurship, and this is what we see, that when we talk to our customers, we find those entrepreneurs in large organizations. This is not about being in a startup, but it's about people who have a lot of ambition, a lot of intent for their brands. So when we talk to customers and when we have a round table within the company after we met some people, the first discussion is कि ये कुछ करेगा कि नहीं करेगा, because it's all about is there an intent that somebody in the organization, somebody who's managing the brand, does he have anything as an intent to actually do something about the brand or not? I think we always find it easy to convince people who are doing something to at least hear out a point of view, if not listen to us. But I think if there is no intent, which is I think a fundamental topic about in entrepreneurship, the fundamental trait of an entrepreneur is that intent that he's got, and he wants to take the cudgels and make those changes, then I don't think it's going to be working out. So you need those entrepreneurs in this era, because I think the era is of straight-jacketed thinking is actually over. And I think we experience it every time. Every single day, the more traditional we are, the more linear we are thinking, it is setting us back. We are setting ourselves up for failure. And we see that. And in every brand where we are seeing that, which has moved the needle considerably, even in very traditional and I would say difficult categories like banking, for instance, we've seen that people who've made that leap have been able to change things on the ground. For example, we heard about how people are using psychographics. Now, this is not an easy thing to do because there is a lot of data privacy stuff that's issued that gets into the act, especially in a banking scenario. And surprise, surprise, we always see that the so-called conservative categories are the people who are trying out new things in the way they want to do it. And it's not left to only the Pepsis and the Cokes and the Nikes of the world, but it's also about other brands which are bound by a lot of regulations, even when they want to access and sort of analyze data. So entrepreneurship is very important. And of course, the word channeled. I think in a subscription world, we all live, as we know, in a subscription economy. We don't want to own things. Nobody wants to own anything. Everybody wants to be subscribing to whatever they believe is right. So this actually, from a brand perspective, I was actually thinking that is there a concept of loyalty in when you talk about when you're looking at a subscription world. So there is no concept, right? Very ironically, when I was checking into the hotel today, I was telling the person at the reception, saying that I've got 8 loyalty cards, right? So it says something, right? If you've got 8 loyalty cards, you're not loyal, right? You're just subscribing to the scenario that you want. But even in this, look at the way the category leaders have emerged. They have emerged, they have done the right things, they have established themselves category leaders despite this situation. So in fact, they're wanting you, every time somebody goes and keeps subscribing to them, it's one more affirmation that you have that there are customers who want to come back to you. And of course, there will be few people who go out, but every time you're able to retain those customers and get newer customers, it is something that you're able to reach out to them. And that can happen only, when all the stories that we heard about customer journey actually becomes more relevant in a subscription-based interaction that we're having. And we know today that virtually everything that we're talking about is subscription-based. And going forward, that will only amplify. And we all know there is a very important economic reason why companies and the stock markets love subscription companies. The next one is about high touch. I think this is very, very crucial because what we've seen is, depending on your category, the number of touches that you have with customers, which is phygital, which is physical and digital, is going to be very important. And you have to identify the right mix that you would ideally want to get this conversion or the challenges of conversion going for you if you want to amplify your brand. So it's going to be about what is the kind of high touch that you're looking at for the brands. And again, I think we've heard enough stories where brands have gone completely digital, people who have just not moved, and on the other extreme, people who have just not moved from a physical touch. And the mix of these two things is actually something that's ideal. But what is that ideal mix is something that probably takes a lot more maturity. So typically people, the way they've done it is to run some kind of pilots and find out for themselves about how it's going to work. And do that in a quick manner so that for different personas, you're able to decide on what are the levels of touches that you actually want. But the fact is that only multi-touch campaigns, multi-touch approaches work. And it's not about reducing the number of touches just because you're getting into a technology-led marketing. So these were the 7, if you may say, 7 habits of highly effective marketers that I just sort of put together from the learning that we've had. So to summarize, it's about what you want to measure, because that's a starting goal for us. That's what is going to guarantee or not guarantee the budgets that we will have going forward. It will also talk about how we are evolving. I think measurability is very important for us because we as marketers are genuinely able to measure a lot more things than we were able to do before. Let's all admit it, that year on year, the quality of the data that we all have is getting better. I know some people in the audience are smiling, saying, oh, you don't know about us. But all I'm saying is that it's not ideal, but it's still at a level that you can do a lot more meaningful analysis. And some analysis better than no analysis anyway. And we don't want to do too much of that as well. I think it's very important. I think we are at that time of the year, and all of us are thinking about what we're going to be doing better next year. I think my guidance to my team, in my own marketing team, is our plan for next year has to be genuinely different from what it was this year. Because I think the world has moved, the market has moved, the customers have moved, everybody is moved. And in India, which is such a dynamic market, we see that year on year, the maturity of customers to be able to look at their brands differently, look at the brands with world-class ambitions and world-class abilities has only been changing. So we need to change as well. So our FY20 plan, as we call it, should be very different from our FY19 plan, because the market that we're going to be getting into is going to be genuinely different. The second one is about authenticity. What are you able to communicate and live by whatever you're saying? How are you making a promise and executing to that promise? And of course, how are you standing out in that crowd as a distinguished brand? What are you doing differently, right? Just look at the airline industry, the different brands that we have in India. I'm just for our consideration, we just restricted to India, and just look at how each brand is trying to say something and how they're trying to try and execute it. You will see that I think the authenticity of a brand gets amplified only when they're able to execute it and stand as distinguished brands. You don't have to always say the best things. You don't have to always say that you will do the best for the customer, but I think it's all about how you just live by whatever you're saying. The fourth aspect is about technology. How do you use technology? Which part of your business needs the maximum attention? Because it's all about your prioritization and your business goals. That's going to probably decide how you're going to be using technology. The entrepreneurs, who are the people who've got the fire in the belly to actually make things happen for you? Because these journeys, these brand journeys, guys, as all of us know, are not easy. It needs, whenever you think about successful brands and their stories, you'll always find one individual behind that. It could be somebody from an agency, it could be somebody who's a brand manager, it could be somebody like a CEO, who is actually willing to take up the brand and say, look, I'm going to run this brand. I don't care what I am in the organization. I just love this brand, and this is the way I'm going to be driving it. And that's entrepreneurship in this context. And then you have to figure out how you're going to be achieving and reaching out to your customers in a multi-touch environment, given that your customer is always looking for an alternative in this kind of a place where people are going to be subscribing to your product and service and not necessarily buying them. And lastly, I think it's all about having that high touch that is there, or I would say, I've said it high touch, but I think it's about the right touch. And that's what you want to actually do to make your brand successful. So that is MadTech for you. I've sort of summarized what I have been hearing over the last 2.5 years. I'm so glad that the stories that we heard since morning, many of them, ricochet these learnings. And of course, there are a lot more. We just scratched the surface. You got the whole day, and I look forward to being with you. But I'll take a pause here and take any questions that you might have, or any point of view that you might have on what is MadTech and how you would like to look at your brand. Yes.
Well, firstly, thank you very much, Sunder. And I think that leaves a very good question for our audience members to ask. So let's see some hands going up there. We'll have the mics passed on to you. All right, we'll take 2 questions. And ma'am, I'm going to request you to introduce yourself as well.
Hi, Sunder. My name is Sarika. I'm from Capgemini. I lead the marketing for Capgemini. Thank you for sharing this 7 mantra for, in the age of MadTech. All are important, but in your opinion, which is the most difficult to kind of really succeed in?
Do you want the true answer or an exciting answer?
I need the true answer. Actually, you can start with the exciting and then perhaps come to the true.
I would say being distinct and distinguished.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
very helpful.
Yeah, because I think it's with all the effort that we do, all of us know how difficult it is. So if I were to cancel out 6 of them and retain one as my charter, I would like to say it's about how distinct you are.
And that's also the most difficult one?
I would say yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, yeah,
I would agree.
yeah. Thank you, Sarika.
All right, we have one more hand going up there. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sunder. My name is Mona Lisa. My question to you will be, what is one of the coolest tech intervention or marketing you have used for your brand, if you can share?
For my brand?
Yeah.
Okay, can I give you an answer, honest answer, or you want a...
I think in the world of MadTech, we all want exciting answers.
Exciting answers, okay. So I think about 3 years back, we realized that our awareness about Experience Cloud, solution that we have, what we used to call it as Marketing Cloud earlier, was something which was very low. And that was probably because of the fact that we have a huge heritage of being a creative company. So we are known as a Photoshop company. So for us to say that, we've added other aspects to the, for the marketer to be able to create that experience and take it and use the creative as one of them, but there are other aspects of Adobe as well, was a big challenge. It continues to be a challenge, but I think 3 years back it was even more severe. So we launched a multi-pronged brand awareness campaign in India, and that to me was, I think, clearly the most exciting, where we used, and India was the only country in the world that Adobe actually ran this campaign in a 3-pronged attack, if I may say. It was multi-channel, it was about events, it was about thought leadership, and it was about, of course, digital. So this culmination of these 3 things was something that really helped us. So we had a few anxious moments for the first 3 months when nothing moved, none of our metrics were moving, but slowly we built on that momentum. And today I can very safely say that everybody who should be knowing about us, I think I can comfortably say they know about us from an Experience Cloud perspective. Not that we've done it all, we still have a distance to go, but that journey was very, very exciting. I think sitting there, looking at those dashboards, trying to actually alter our mix so that we hit the right numbers was, I think, a great testimony to our own solutions and our own thinking about saying that you have to measure, you have to correct, and you have to measure it again and see whether you're achieving what you want to do. It was like a game that went on, and I'm pretty excited that is something that I'm very proud of at Adobe. Of course, not to mention the different customer stories that we have, who've done outstanding job, in their journeys to create the best customer experiences. So yeah, so over lunch, most happy to share some of those great work that our customers have done. That gives us a lot more satisfaction than what we do for ourselves.
All right, so we'll probably take one last question if there is. Anybody, ladies and gentlemen? All right, so well, with that, then let's have a round of applause and thank Sunder Madakshira. Thank you so much again for joining us. And